Social media. It's one of those things within a club that can be going great until it's not. In today's age, social media is one of the most popular and informative ways others are going to learn about your club and what it's doing in your community. Therefore, it's incredibly important that you're putting your best face forward. As a December 2015 blog from classy.org puts it, the social media accounts of your organization represent your viewpoints, culture, and values. And because of this, there is less room for mishaps and often much less forgiveness. Is your club ready to cope if such a mishap were to occur? In today's session, we'll talk about social media guidelines, what they are, why they're important, and what goes into writing them. We'll wrap up by hitting briefly on cybersecurity and copyright law issues that can also impact your club's social media presence. Social media guidelines may seem unnecessary to many clubs, but they are important to ensuring continuity in your club and protecting yourself from issues further down the road. The process also requires you to have an honest conversation about what you know and what you don't, what's working and what could use some improvement. In short, we need the guidelines to help us deal with the unintentional and unfortunately sometimes intentional errors your organization could face. This includes misunderstandings where a lack of clarity causes issues with the public, factual errors that a member may make while speaking on behalf of the club, and the sharing of proprietary information that should not be shared beyond the membership or board of directors. Guidelines can also help you plan out how you will communicate in times of crisis and how to handle issues like spoofing when someone else may be falsely representing your club. More than anything, however, they provide a solidified system of checks and balances to help ensure your social media presence is the best it can be. There are two common types of guidelines. There are the kind that deal with those who are posting on behalf of your organization. That's what we'll be talking about in today's presentation. Some organizations also elect to have guidelines that apply to members of the organization, but that is less common in situations like our local Sertoma clubs. We'll not touch on that topic much here today, but I will caution you that if you ever elect to go that route, make sure that you have a legal professional involved in the process to ensure you are following any legal regulations and best practices. There are some key things you'll want to keep in mind as you begin your writing process. It's important to acknowledge that this is a team effort. All stakeholders should have a say in the process, and your club must make sure that the guidelines are not in violation of Sertoma or club governing documents. Next, keep an eye on the tone. Guidelines are intended to empower your team, not inhibit them. Language should demonstrate trust in the involved parties and remain respectful to all those involved. As I previously mentioned, you'll want to remember the rights guaranteed under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and any other legally protected rights. This is why it's so important to have your club's appointed legal professional review the guidelines to make sure that they're not in violation of any applicable laws. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about writing your guidelines. We've already accepted that it's going to be a team process, so look at how we can go about building that team. The very first thing you will need to do is simply identify who should be involved in the writing process. This is likely going to be a board decision that is overseen by a couple individuals, including those who will be responsible for maintaining the club's social media accounts. This process should help you clearly identify who has access to what. How many members can act as administrators, managers, or editors on your Facebook? Is your club's Twitter or Instagram tied to an email address that has multiple people with access to it? It's important that multiple people can log into accounts easily. Once you know who knows what, document contact information, logins, accounts, and etc. in a secure place accessible by officers of the club or other appointed trusted parties. I noted a moment ago that those who will oversee your social media should be involved in the writing process. It can be helpful to appoint a lead social media manager who oversees everything and works with other members on developing social media content. Do you need to have people help moderate your Facebook group or comments? Should you have a couple people responsible for writing posts each month? There's no real suggestion on what will work best for your club, as it really depends on your size and how you will use your social media channels. Rather, these questions can help start the conversation on who should represent your club publicly and how that process will be handled. The other thing to keep in mind is, what does your club's voice sound like? Are you warm and fuzzy? Are you more professional oriented? Once you have the whole voice and tone set, make sure that it's consistent across all channels and represents how you want outsiders to see your organization. Etiquette plays a significant role in writing social media guidelines. Here are some suggestions from Classy that can help you with the backbone of your social media principles. First of all, be welcoming. We're a service-oriented organization, so you want people to want to join and support your club. Your social media presence should reflect this welcoming spirit. The American Society of Association Executives, or ASAE, suggests that you also want your social media messaging and imagery to represent not only who your members are, but also who your members serve. Be personal, not private. This means that while it's important to personalize your social media to show off your members, it should never be to the detriment of their privacy. Ask for permission before posting quotes, photos, and videos. ASAE even says to get that permission in writing when possible. Be active. Monitor your channels and understand what active looks like in your club's publishing schedule. Listen. Take in the feedback that you get from your members online and adjust accordingly. Use it as an opportunity to receive information rather than to defend whenever possible. Be responsive. Set an expectation for how long it will take you to respond to comments, messages, and questions. Create value. Don't post silly things just to post. Have identified intentions for your post, whether it's to inform, to promote, to entertain, and so on. Use humor only when appropriate. Humor is subjective, so it's incredibly important to remember that just because something is funny or inoffensive to you doesn't mean that others will feel the same. Avoiding topics like politics, religion, and more can also be a good rule of thumb. Don't push the organization. While you want people to join, you don't want to shove it down their throats. Few people respond well to the hard sell, especially when it's done over and over again. Be courteous. The golden rule applies here. And finally, don't ignore negative criticism. It doesn't mean that you have to respond publicly to everything. Just talk about how your club will handle negative comments and then make sure that you're acting accordingly. I want to make one last note on copyright. This is an important issue that your club cannot afford to ignore. Copyright is a law, not a suggestion. You need to understand what kind of content and assets your club can use without permission, what requires credit, what constitutes fair use, and more. If this is something no one in your club is knowledgeable about, you can contact HQ for additional resources, speak with your club's legal expert, or search for resources on the internet. There's a ton of information out there, and if you're using non-original content of any kind, it's important that you understand what this process should look like. It is our hope that this presentation will spark a conversation about social media management in our clubs. If you're looking for samples of guidelines used by other organizations, there are a million of them out there that you can find by doing a quick and simple search on Google or your other favorite search engine. Want to learn more about social media? We have a host of club development videos on social media and other topics available on the Member Center's training library available at sertoma.org.